I am João Lima, editor of Data Economy, and here with me I've got Jeff Klaus, General Manager of Data Center Solutions at Intel. Jeff, thanks a lot for talking to me. We spoke a few months ago.
Yep.
This industry is not very well known for being too risky. Do you think we need to risk more to actually innovate even more and drive the industry forward?
Well, I think there are innovations that are happening all the time in the data center, and operators come to these events and they see some of these new capabilities. And we work with a bunch of partners, and those partners are on the front lines taking our technology where we bring instrumentation and low-level data from inside the IT devices, and we're serving that up to the facilities individuals, the facilities managers, and software companies that are focused on facilities management. And we're trying to bridge that gap between the historical silos of IT and facilities, and there are opportunities to automate some of what we find so that someone can identify a problem and then use their facilities software, their management software in that space in order to resolve that issue quickly or in an automated fashion. So that's one example of several, but I know operators are, they're responsible for the uptime, they're responsible for the livelihood of the data center. So for them to take, smaller steps, we have temperature sensors in every server and in most devices that are Intel architecture. And we can get that information and allow them to try these different things. And some POCs or proof of concept areas are where we really need to focus these guys and make them more comfortable.
So when you look into automating intelligence, so the next step of artificial intelligence, machine learning, algorithms, all those sort of things, cognitive computing, are you seeing a drive to actually create these proof of concept labs where companies can go in and then just try it out? Or do you see we're moving towards a stage now where they're actually deploying this, or is it still very much skeptical?
I think there are kind of two different groups of operators. You have some that are so far out on the leading edge that they have enough developers.
Could you name someone?
They're like the Super 7. They're the typical guys that you would think. That they build their own tools. They have enough developers in order to go into that space, and they're always iterating on new ways to make their environment more efficient. And they are the leaders that others are trying to follow. Now we're trying to make those tools available to the second and third tier in the cloud space by packaging up solutions that they can take. So there's not as much customization opportunities for them, but at least they get some insight into what those top tier data centers are doing from a tools perspective. And I think there are just smaller steps that a tier 2 and beyond can take in order to test out those types of new operations.
When do you think tier 2 and tier 3 data center providers or cloud providers are going to be able to reach the same stage as tier 1?
I think that it will be challenging for them to reach the levels of efficiency because the tier 1s are focusing their tools specifically on the types of workloads that they typically operate, and they also can kind of customize the hardware to be either memory or CPU focused based on the types of environments and workloads and customer sets that they see. And as you go down, I think there are other opportunities to do that with the tier 2 and beyond, but their tools might be a little more off the shelf, and they might have to work with a partner that can customize things for them. But I think they can get pretty close. It's just a matter of trying at this point.
Not being afraid.
Right, not being afraid. I think they're finding out that 10% of these steps of increasing the temperature in their environment doesn't generate that much of a problem, and I think they get more comfortable with that.
But how do you get to understand how much you can stretch the risk here? Because you don't want to go too far, because if you go too far, this can also cost you millions, if not billions, but it would also cost you brand reputation, it would cost you a lot more than just money, and both of them are bad things. How do you measure how much you can risk?
I mean, we see a lot about outages, and that's big in the press, and it's hard to recover from that, because if your data center is the livelihood of your business, and if those functions go down, your business goes down. So I think most companies that are focused on data center efficiency have lab environments. They've got pretty robust lab environments. In addition to that, they also have simulated environments for large amount of nodes, so they can test out scale with some of these new capabilities. And we also provide a simulator for some of our customers, and we provide an environment for them to be able to test. So even if they don't have a lab, they can come and use one of Intel's 70 data centers, and a portion of that environment we can carve out for a customer to run some tests if they don't have the capability.
And then moving to the technology side and also on what Intel is doing. In terms of artificial intelligence, what is the newest one that you see coming at the industry right now? Beyond like machine learning and some algorithms and stuff, what is the next big artificial intelligence technology they think is going to completely disrupt the game?
Well, I think the one area that we're focused on that's coming out relatively shortly in the next 6 to 12 months is around rack scale design. It's around doing a composition, almost like virtualizing your compute network and storage. And there are a couple elements of it. So in a rack scale design system, you've got compute network and storage all in that one container. And if the customer ever wants to upgrade this, in the past they would have to have bought a new box, a new 2U server. They would have been spending some of their money on items that they didn't really want to upgrade. So when you have to upgrade a CPU, you didn't want to buy a new power supply. You didn't want to buy all the other components and the sheet metal around it. And with rack scale design, all those elements are modular, so you can just change out your compute, and you're spending most of your budget on that and not the other elements that kind of come with the old server types. So that's one piece of what makes rack scale design more efficient for the future from a percentage of wallet perspective. But the other is that we work with orchestration providers so that a workload can come in and be essentially a smarter workload.
Okay.
So it knows how much compute network and storage it needs in order to operate that workload. It only turns those functions on rather than having an HPC environment on but idle.
Okay.
Now you have the ability to just turn on the components that you need to work that.
Okay. Which comes down to address the need for efficiency. So cut down cost of even cooling, power, all those sort of things. And then industry-wise, like as our last question as well, what are the main 3 things that you think are going to change in the next few months until the end of 2017, for example? We've got about 6 months to go to the end of the year. What do you expect? Not just from a technological perspective, we can say a couple from a technological perspective, but also from an M&A perspective, a big player that would change the game. We had a big game changer for Microsoft, for example, with data centers in South Africa.
Yeah.
So that's been something that no one was expecting so early.
No, I think composable systems. I think virtualized capabilities are still have some more room to grow. I think you will see some additional automation and activity where you see more cooperation between the IT and facilities guys on trying to operate in an environment that doesn't need a lot of human interaction. We see a lot of the outages that were happening recently. Some human error and some are identified just to power identification issues. So those are a couple. I think on the M&A side, I don't have as much insight into that. I just see that there's a lot of investment that's happening in the data center, and I know the Nordic space has really been. There's been alignment with the government. So when you have a strategy and you want to form kind of a new competency from an economic perspective, it's great to get the government aligned with industry in order to go after a certain segment of the market and be known for that, and that's what they've been doing.
Quickly picking on your second point about people, are we ever going to reach the no humans data center? So we'll have a data center with no need to have humans inside, or we always will need a human or two just to make sure.
Yeah, I think
to give the confidence as well.
I mean, I think there's some data center environments right now that don't have humans in them, and they will parachute in if they need to walk around and check something. So it's been severely reduced. I think there are other technologies that are ripe to exploit that as well, and you see them working outside right now. But they're when you have an autonomous driving vehicle, it doesn't take too long to have an autonomous something in the data center helping monitoring and identifying assets. So I think some of that has some potential.
But if the younger generation wants to get a job in the data center in the next 5 to 10 years, is it something they can still look into, or you think it's something? It's
a good question. I think we're having that conversation with someone today, and it's about education. You really have to continue your education and driving into new areas and being adaptable to change. What I would tell people now is get into programming, get into development. Software development is one area, because even though you're going to automate something, you still have to give that some intelligence. And That's one piece, data analytics of all the data that's going to come from that automation. To interpret that and to really there are colleges that are starting programs with that focus in mind to be able to ingest and interpret data.
Making sense of it. Okay, Jess, thanks a lot for talking to me. Don't forget you can follow Data Economy on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and also visit the websites on www.data-economy.com.